Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. With your host, Berserker, this is Unshackled Fury.
Aloha! And welcome back to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions, Unshackled Fury. I'm your host, Berserker. This is episode 105. And on today's show, we're discussing the latest chapters in the Zereth Mortis campaign, reviewing another cinematic, but one that was way less enthusiastically received than the last, and looking ahead to finally finding out where in the world of Warcraft we are going next. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Allie for joining me on the last episode 104. Had a great time chatting with one of the all-time lore nerds, and I say that with all peace and love, of our community, somebody who has such a great passion for World of Warcraft and the story around it, because it's not every day you get to jam with somebody like that, and I really appreciated her coming on. So if you hadn't had a chance to check out that episode yet, I highly recommend you do. We spent a good amount of time chatting about the amazing cinematic that came through with Anduin, with that fight, when that was over and what happened afterward. And all of the things Warcraft. So if you hadn't had a chance to check it out, episode 104 with Allie. So big shout out to her. And I also want to let you folks know that by the time you hear this, and in reference to this opener of this show, I'm on vacation. By the time you hear this, I will literally be on a beach in Hawaii, chilling out with cold drinks and no work emails, and I don't know, I might even delete Twitter off my phone. I'm not quite sure, because I need a break. This is the first vacation we as a family have had in 2 years. 2 years this week, in fact, has been our anniversary date for COVID protocols and everything else, and we have not had an actual vacation in all that time. So we are finally going to be heading out, but because I love you, my dear listener, I jammed out this episode before I left. Recorded it early. So hopefully there's no other major news that gets dropped before this gets out. Of course, I'm sure major news will drop on the Monday that this comes out. But, I have commandments for this show for a reason. And Commandment 6, you shall always hear the news last from me. That's kind of how we do it. So we've been pretty strong in this expansion with holding that up. So in that or to that end, I should say, with the vacation, I will be taking a little bit of a longer break between this episode and the next. It'll be 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks, because I will want to wrap up the Zereth Mortis campaign before we get to some other fun stuff, which I will talk about in the episode 2 weeks after that. So there will be a 3-week break here, but I hope you enjoy this little program on my way out to some fun and some sun. Last, I just wanted to share a quick story with you folks about how sometimes I forget about the size of our community. It's very easy to get drilled in on, this is my guild, this is my raid team, these are the people maybe I converse with out on social media, and so it feels like this very small group sometimes. Now, I know that there's literally millions of people that play this game, but you don't always come across them in your everyday life. And when you do, it can be so rewarding and so refreshing. And I was lucky enough to have that happen to me this week, where I had a meeting on a project that I'm working on with a gentleman by the name of Greg. I'll just give Greg. And we were talking about this project and just kind of doing normal things that you do with projects and talking about all the angles and bits and pieces and whatnot. And we got to talking about our areas of expertise. And he made the comment that, at the end of the day, he just likes to go home, play World of Warcraft, go to bed. And I was like, you like to do what? He goes, yeah, I play World of Warcraft. I go, because we were on a video together. So I said, oh, look behind me. What do you see back there? He goes, are all these expansions? I said, yeah. And so then we spent the next 45 minutes talking about Zereth Mortis and Warcraft lore. And he's a big Horde guy. I'm a big Alliance guy. We both love the Anduin cinematic. And we were talking about the history of Charlemagne. And it was so much fun. And we were so off topic. But it's rare that happens, but man, when it does, it's so much fun. And we both are big believers in this conversation, and this is what I want to impart to anyone listening to this, is don't be afraid to fly that flag. Don't be afraid to show off those geeky colors, or that Warcraft brand, or whatever you want to call it. Because there are plenty of other people out there that share that, but sometimes I feel like we have to kind of hide it, and it's still a little taboo to be, I don't know, an adult that plays video games or whatever it is, but you never know who you're going to come across out there. And so it was really nice to meet someone and have a really fun conversation, just completely out of the blue. Well, it's enough of the nice stuff. We haven't had a rage segment in a little while, and I got something from last night that, well, I got to get off my chest. So let's get into it. Let's rage. So among all the other big news this week, we had one thing that everybody cared about, I think, the most. And that's flying. That's flying. Getting your achievement done and getting your flying. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about flying later in the show. But there's one thing that I wanted to talk about that I experienced last night that absolutely was driving me crazy. And that is the part of this where you have to essentially kill 10 rares. There are these events, and you have to get 10 of these things. And I heard somebody make a comment about this early, and Slick, you were right. The people who fly in, who already got their flying mounts, who fly into these things and just blow them all up and blow every cooldown they have, making sure that it goes down as quick as possible without giving anyone on a ground mount the opportunity to get to these rares. You're killing me. You're killing me. You're killing everybody else too. Like, you're trying to get across a map and you're looking, and hopefully maybe somebody puts it in general chat, which, God, I had to turn on general chat for the first time in forever to see this. You're like, okay, there's a rare. I got to get down there. And you see 50 people flying in on their mounts. Like, no, you already got it. Like, what are you doing? And then you get down there and the thing's been dead for 5 minutes. Like, fuck. Then I got to get another one. And so I wait. And there's another one. I hit the transporter. I get to another part of the map and I ride over there. Nope, everybody's already flying away from that one. Listen, if you already got your flying in Zereth Mortis, just get the tag and chill. Just get the tag and chill. Some white hits, right? Just some basic attacks. Throw something from a distance if you're melee. Whatever it is. Give the people who don't have flying a chance to get there and get them out. Because, let me tell you, it makes it a whole lot harder now that people have it. And Slick, you were right. This is one of the things that people should have done, including myself, before everybody had flying mounts and you had a better chance at getting these rares. Because some of them, you have a little bit more time to prep, and that was very lucky on my part for some of them where people would ping them on a map, and some of them weren't even active yet. There's a big bird in the northeast corner. I can't remember the name. But that one's like up on a perch for a little bit, and then it finally goes live. And it gave plenty of people a chance to get there. But for God's sake, if you already got your flying mount, just get the white hit, get the tag, and just chill. Just chill. Let other people get a chance. God. I mean, I know you earned it, and nobody's stopping you. And you had to do it, and you did your due diligence, and you did it right the first time. But come on. You gotta give the rest of us lazy asses a break. Gotta get there. All right. Now that I've got that said, let's get on to the news. We've got some fun things to talk about. And another big set of Warcraft news is on the way for all of us. So let's go. All right. So since we were here last, we've had a couple weeks of campaign quests, and 2 legs of that journey have come out. So we're picking up now after we have freed Anduin, after we've seen that cinematic, and Anduin has been freed by his fathers, and we've got him back in our possession, not our possession, but we've got him back with us, safe and sound. Jaina's making sure he's good. We have a couple of legs here, and I just want to kind of go through them and give my thoughts and impressions on sort of how each of them went. The first one, just coming straight out of successfully freeing Anduin, is the Crown of Wills section of this. And this is where we learned a whole lot more information, and at times very confusing information, about domination magic. So as we come to find out, that is the sort of brand of magic that was used over all these years to bring certain characters in the Warcraft universe under the sway of the Jailer. And so for us, at the behest of the Primus, we use pieces of the Helm of Domination to do some tests. And poor Darian Mograine was like, yeah, I think I can handle having a little bit of this tested on me. And nope, he got dominated. We had to fight him, and that was not fun. So we take the pieces of the Helm of Domination and we head out into Zereth Mortis to try to discover how certain characters, creatures, whatever you want to call it, have an immunity or resistance to this domination magic. And what we learn is that somehow it is the language of the first ones that helps us resist this domination magic. And we go around and we have to test it on different things, and we find out that the more complex something is in terms of these phrases, the more of this resistance that something can have. So what's weird about this is that here we had Anduin, who resisted the Jailer, but when asked in this quest line, how do we resist it, he has no idea. So that was a little weird. I don't know. Again, you never know with game dev stuff about how long ahead things are decided or worked on or figured out or whatever, but it was a little odd to me that here we are questing and trying out this magic on different things and heading all around the great wide afterlife. And here was Anduin right here, who'd been able to do it successfully, but says nothing about what happened. Nothing about Varian, nothing about Saurfang. It was a little odd. It was a little odd. But we end up infusing the helm, or these pieces of the helm, with these first one phrases. And we end up in a really cool scene, which takes place in Bastion, where there is a great assemblage of characters from the Warcraft universe who have been, or who were, harmed by Arthas, by this domination magic. And we had Bolvar there. We had Darian Mograine there. We had Anduin there. Sylvanas was there. Thrall was a neutral NPC, which was kind of strange. And of course, we were there, and I think Bane was there. So they have this kind of ritual where they try to resist the magic, and then we have to fight some little guys that pop up, and you see them essentially having like a therapy session. It was like a group therapy session. It was interesting to watch, especially with Sylvanas, right? Because we're still trying to figure out where is she at. And for what it's worth, she told there was an in-game cutscene, not one of those like half cinematic, right? It's an in-game cutscene where she walked through and she talked about the first time that she resisted the domination magic, and you see Arthas, and she talks about how when she essentially felt like she had a sense of purpose, that was even though it was a angry ragey one, which I totally love, that helped her throw off the control of this domination magic. And so it was really her story ultimately that helps Anduin, because Anduin gives it 2 shots. The first one's it's too much. The second one, he's able to throw off this remnant of domination, if you will. I didn't quite understand what they were, but it gets him into a better place. And so at this point, with the helm of domination, or the pieces left in it, they're being, as this ceremony is going on, these pieces are being infused with the language of the first ones. And now that this ritual has been completed, we're in a position to be able to resist the jailer. Like that's the goal of this whole section here, is to find out how can we resist the jailer. Because if you remember back to the end of the last raid, when the jailer opened up the portal to Zereth Mortis, and he just immediately dominated everybody, right? And so it's trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we get past that? That's what all of this is about, is trying to figure out how do we get past this. So they've infused the pieces of the helm. We've infused the pieces of the helm of domination to help us do something, right? To help us, okay, what are we going to do? Well, the Primus is like, all right, let's make a new hat. Let's use these pieces and make a new hat. So we go back to the Rune Carver's room, take all the pieces of the Helm of Domination there, and the Primus, through another little ceremony, creates a new, not a helm, it's more like they're calling it the Crown of Wills. It's this gold circlet looking thing, which is way not as cool as the Helm of Domination. Of course, I have a little mini Helm of Domination replica sitting right here in front of me. I'm looking at it right now as I speak. It's so classic, and I love it so much. And the fact that they've, in a very meta way, like, said this is the end of this portion of the franchise. Like, I feel a certain way about it for sure. But now we have the Crown of Wills that we believe is the tool that is going to help us, save the Shadowlands and defeat the jailer and all these things. And the Primus is just going to hold on to it. It's like, okay, I thought we were going to do something with it. But we're going to find out later. And I know what it is. We're not going to talk about it this time. But that is essentially what happens with the Helm of Domination. We discover how to resist domination magic. The Helm of Domination, the pieces that were left, are now reforged into this Crown of Wills. And as Sylvanas Windrunner says, never again will a Lich King reign in Icecrown. So one of the big questions for me coming into this expansion has been, and this is predicated upon the very first thing we saw, which is the Helm of Domination being shattered by Sylvanas, is what happens back on Azeroth? The whole purpose of Bolvar sacrificing himself was to maintain control of the Skurrs. That's what we were always told. control must be maintained. King Tyrannus says it right there at the end of the Lich King fight, way back in Wrath of the Lich King. So what happens now? We don't know. I don't think we know. I haven't seen. If it is, they buried it real deep because it's not obvious to me. Maybe that's coming later. Maybe that's part of the stuff that's coming. I don't know. But here we have now this Crown of Wills, and we'll see what happens to it. And while that was interesting, I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of that. I get where they're going. It's cool that the whole thing wasn't destroyed, that it became something new and something that's going to be good and useful, and all right. The end of that specific leg of the campaign, I thought was one of the best things of this expansion because it's something we've all been waiting for so long. During those quests, we had Bolvar and Talia working together to help us, and there were some interactions there. But even more so at the end of this leg, when we're back in Haven, there's a pretty good conversation that happens between Bolvar and Talia, where Talia says, I think, what all kids who've been in a situation like that have said, which is, where the fuck have you been? I mean, she didn't say it like that, but she has questions, and she wants to know, why did you let us believe that you were dead? Why did it go down this way? And Bolvar knows that there's nothing he can say or do to make things better. He knew that was part of the sacrifice. Did we know that way back when? No, we just thought, he's sacrificing himself. Well, there was more than that. There was a family involved. And there is a leg of that journey that we've all been waiting to see ever since Battle for Azeroth. There's Talia Fordragon. Oh, shit. Do you know who your dad is? And that has been playing out now over the last handful of years, and if there's one critique of World of Warcraft I've seen amped up a little more recently, more than usual anyway, is it takes a very long time for this story to be told. Especially when it comes to things like this, where we've been waiting for years for those two in particular to have that moment of connection, reconciliation, whatever you want to call it. And now we're starting to see more of that, which is great to watch. And I really encourage folks to pay attention to that. If you haven't, go back, read it again, take a look at it. It's not, there's not a whole lot there. I'm not saying it's like a 5-minute conversation, but it's worth it because I feel like this is going to lead us into some other things. Essentially, as a father, as a parent, right? You feel that pull to protect your child at all costs, but sometimes that's not the best thing for the child, and that's part of the discussion that's had here. Is, I'm trying to protect you, but maybe we're doing more damage. I don't know. Couldn't let the Scourge run wild, so that's not a problem we have right now, but. I thought that was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. That was a bit of a surprise to me. So I was thrilled to see that. So that wraps up at least that portion of the post Anduin quest line, doing the Crown of Wills section of this. But after that, this past week, we've had A Means to an End, where we're going now away from that part of our story and back to the first ones and what's going on with them and their crazy stuff and all the Zereth Mortis wackiness, if you want to call it that. And it takes us to the Oracle back in Farim's cave. Right? Poke-a-poke, our buddy Poke-a-poke. I did get the tricorn hat. So Allie, I do have a tricorn hat, Poke-a-poke running around. Poke-a-poke gets, mind controlled by the Oracle. This Oracle that's been laid out there since basically the start of the patch. And so it's freaking everybody out. We're down in Farim's cave, and there appears to be some kind of spheres are hitting the Oracle with some kind of a beam. and we're trying to unlock it. So we touch these orbs, and we get another one of these in-game cinematic type things, and it is bonkers. It is. I don't know. I think somebody must have watched a couple of Pink Floyd videos or something before they put this together. But it's the Oracle, but the Oracle has a name, Caesura. I don't know how to say it. But the Oracle begins to speak in several languages. We identify as Titanic, Draconic, Demonic, Shethyar, which I think that's Old Gods. And then Common, I guess. And Vessel is the word that it's saying. It's going through all of these various motions and doing some kind of sign language deal. But vessel, that's the message. It's speaking about a vessel. And so we come out of that, and our buddy Pokepoke, who's still mind controlled, speaks to us. It's the Oracle speaking through Pokepoke, and we got to go follow Pokepoke on a journey to find this vessel, whatever this vessel is. Again, I love Pokepoke. You want to take me somewhere, Pokepoke? We're going to go there. So we end up heading out. We head out into Zereth Mortis. We're looking for this vessel. And in doing so, we have to use or discover this kind of transport system that clearly we won't need as soon as we're done with any of this stuff because we can fly. But we have to go around and soak up energy, and we have to turn on these ciphers, and we make our way around eventually as we get higher and higher up to this terrace that's out of reach. We find locked behind a vault, another one of these vaults that are these pyramid-looking vaults. Inside this vault is an empty vessel. Now, the empty vessel appears to be like some kind of automaton, it looks sort of like a robot. For those that had already seen the end cinematic for Sepulchre, the first ones, this thing looks familiar, and I think it also helps to fill in maybe a little bit of information that people are like, huh? So there's this empty vessel, which is clearly this large automaton. And we have to get it out. We have a cool little fight scene with Pokepoke. We use Pokepoke as a weapon. And we have to charge him up and get ourselves out of there. And then we find out, once we get back to Fareem's cave, we take the vessel back to Fareem's cave. The Caesura, the Oracle, tells us essentially that this vessel is going to be the new Arbiter. That's what this is intended to be. And as we have come to find out, these vessels are what souls were infused into to make the Eternal Ones, the Pantheon of Death, whatever you want to call it. They start out as this base automaton item, whatever it is, and that is what is eventually turned into an Eternal One. And so now we're on a path of, okay, we know we need an Arbiter. And Caesura says, all that is eternal was forged in Zereth Mortis, Archon, Primus, Winter Queen, Sire, and Arbiter. The vessel is destined to replace that which was lost, but first the vessel must be filled. Preparations are required. And so then we let Bolvar know, and Bolvar is like, yes, there's going to be a new Arbiter. That sounds great. Pelagos doesn't seem all too high on this, but that's where we left it. We're now in a position of, we've been able to resist domination magic, which allows us then to do the final leg of the raid. Because remember, we only could do the first 8 bosses, come out, save Anduin, resist domination magic, go back in, defeat the final 3 encounters in the raid. And then here we are with the Oracle, the creation of a new Arbiter. How does that happen, and what comes next? Well, we only have one official leg left in this journey for 9.2, and that is the chapter called Starting Over. I know some of what happens. It was part of the data mining stuff that was everywhere quite a while ago. So if you saw it, hooray. Sorry to make you wait. It's going to be a few weeks. I'll talk about it when I get back from vacation. I will say I haven't seen how it all happens. I do need some context because it's a little unfulfilling. Just on the surface of what I know, but keeping my mind open because I haven't seen it. Now, the other big part of this week, right? Flying. All right, flying. So, yes, I did get it. Midnight last night, midnight the night before I recorded this, I finally got the last rare kill that I needed, and it took me an hour to get the last 3 that I needed. And so that was what was generating a lot of my rage before. Was I was trying to bang it out to get to bed because I had stuff to do today. Record this podcast, back up for my trip, get out of here. And I'm like, I just need a couple more. So I did get my flying. Happy to get that. I had one guildie online, Slick Rock, who I mentioned previously. He was there. And I was happy to see at least one witness around for this. But if you haven't gotten your flying yet, let me tell you, this is, even with what I said earlier, this is still by far and away the quickest and easiest flying late in an expansion I think that we've ever had. If I can do it with as minimal playtime as I've had in the last handful of weeks, anybody can do it. One, you just have to explore Zereth Mortis. Just ride around. You can do that. That's not that hard. 2, you only have to discover 5 treasures in Zereth Mortis. There's, I don't know how many of them, 40, 50. There's tons of them. There's chests all over the place. You only need 5. That's not a problem. You have to complete Path to Enlightenment. So you have to do some other storylines. Just do the quests. You'll be fine. No problem. Tales of the Exile. Now that's one, honestly, if you haven't been diligent about picking up the little scrolls that you see on the ground, the volumes of Farim in Exile, that isn't hard now as long as there's not a ton of people around picking up those scrolls and they despawn. So my suggestion, find a place that has the map coordinates, just get them done. There's 7 parts that you have to pick up. It's not that hard. I only had a handful left that I had to do last night, and I did it in probably 20 minutes. Not that big a deal. Then there's Adventures in Zereth Mortis, and that is where you have to complete 10 of the special encounters in Zereth Mortis, and there's a bunch of them, and they do spawn pretty quickly. I will tell you that even though some of them may not be up very long, the next ones do come along pretty quickly. So again, kind of like we've seen in the past, rares popping up. People are being good about putting them in general chat, and some of them you can place like a marker on your map, do different things. People are there generally to be helpful, I think, right now, other than flying in and nuking it in 2 seconds. So with a little bit of patience, maybe more than I have, you can get it. If I got it, you can get it. So that's it. Explore Zereth Mortis, Curious Collections, Path to Enlightenment, Tales of the Exile, Adventures in Zereth Mortis. That is the Unlocking the Secrets achievement components. And all in all, I think this is a good model to follow. Exploring the land, I think that's a no-brainer. We've always had to do that. Picking up some treasures, you will do that just by virtue of trying to see the land. Same with doing some of those encounters, those rarer kills that you have to get. You'll see them around. You'll have to chase down a few more would be my guess, but if you're even just exploring the land to fill out that part of this whole achievement, you'll get a bunch of those. Same with Tales of the Exile. If you have Pokepoke, really helpful to have Pokepoke pointing things out to you and you see the yellow dot pop up on your map. You're like, ooh, what's that? Sometimes it's something you don't care about. Sometimes it's one of those things, and that is a godsend. But at least this time, I will say, they had a plan. It did waffle a little bit. It was going to take a couple months, and then it was going to take 2 weeks, and then it ended up taking a few weeks, a little bit longer. That's okay. I don't think anybody's going to care. Most people, I think, are going to get this fairly quickly, and it's a good model to follow. Gone are the days when, will we, won't we? I think they're circling in on something that is the right group for this. So, got my flying. I hope you got your flying too. This is a good model to follow, and hopefully they'll continue to do that in the future. So, let's talk about the raid. Let's talk about the end of the raid. The end of Sepulchre of the First Ones. The final fight, at least, the jailer fight. We had one big part of this that we knew was coming, which is the end cinematic. Everybody was waiting for that. What happens at the end? How are we going to wrap up the storyline? Big questions. Well, there was a nice surprise that came before the fight itself. So getting into the jailer, getting into that fight. Another cinematic played where we now have a better idea of how all of these bits and pieces related to Azeroth and the Shadowlands, the two physical lands, were coming together. And we see a place getting fired up that we haven't seen in a very long time, which is the Forge of Souls in Icecrown Citadel. So if you remember, this was a little dungeon that got added at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. And this is a Bronze Jam, I think, was in there. You get Papa's new bag. I think that's what everybody wanted. Well, underneath, because you were on these platforms the whole time. Well, underneath were these giant, it just like grinders. And I think we just kind of assumed it was some evil thing that the Lich King or somebody was using to grind up people's bones. I mean, who knows? But we see that getting fired up and essentially siphoning Azerite energy or the life force of Azeroth or something and shooting it up through the spire in Icecrown Citadel and shooting this energy right to Torghast and into the Shadowlands. Now, it's kind of funny that the Sepulchre of the First Ones is in a totally separate place from Torghast, which I think is the mirror to Icecrown. But the energy, I'm sure, is flowing through, and there's some way that the jailer has worked it out, and okay. But for me, as a Wrath nut, that was cool. That was so cool. These are the kinds of callbacks I think a lot of us really enjoy, and so to have that surprised, like, I never would have thought that was part of anything. To be honest with you, I'd completely forgotten about that dungeon. I haven't seen it in 10 years, probably. But that was really fun. And kudos to the team for pulling that one out. I had a good time with that. So have this introduction where this energy's going into the jailer's room. We see him, he's staring at this globe of Azeroth on the floor, and this energy starts to power through there, and here the death claims the soul of your world and all this kind of stuff, and then we fight him, right? And the people fight him. Eventually, he's defeated. Now, we're not going to go through boss mechanics. You want to go to starting zone or something for something like that, because those dudes are way smarter than I am, and we'll talk about all those juicy bits. I'm just going to talk about what happens afterwards. And what we see is the jailer defeated. His armor starts to burn away. Kind of like, remember when Anduin finally was freed and his armor changed, and it was this really cool kind of smoky dissolving effect. Well, that's what happens with the jailer. All that badass armor of his is down on his knees, defeated. That starts to bust away, starts to peel away, melt away, and he's freaking out. This can't be. This must not be, I think is his actual line. And we see his memories as this is happening, right? As he's we come to find out, as he's dying, he sees his judgment, flashbacks to his judgment. He sees the Archon. He sees the Winter Queen. He sees Sire Denathrius. We don't see the Primus, but we hear the Primus, which, little note on that here in a little bit. But we see what essentially we believe is the judgment of the jailer when Zovaal was originally chained up, taken prisoner, whatever you want to call it, when he was cast out. But as this is happening, it's not just his armor that peels away. Then we start to see that his skin is like melting away and disappearing, and underneath is that same automaton, that same kind of base creature, I don't know what you want to call it, that we saw in the quest line that we just did this week, that is going to be the new Arbiter. So this is the base item, right? When we make our legendaries, we got to have a base item. These are their base items for Eternal Ones. And so that's what happens, is we see Zovaal melting away as his memories are going through his mind of how he was chained up and cast out, and in the end, we get a weird moment that I don't know that we were all expecting. Maybe not. But Zovaal, in his memory, as he's dissolving, as he's drifting away, the Primus asks in his memory, "Why, Zovaal? What drove you to this end?" And the jailer says, "You preserve that which is doomed. A cosmos divided will not survive what is to come." And as this happens, the sky in Icecrown Citadel changes. That gaping hole in the sky, the portal between the two worlds, between Azeroth and Shadowlands, closes. And we're left to wonder, what did Zovaal mean by that? Is this another weirdo Thanos situation where I was doing all of these horrible things because a more horrible thing is coming? It sure seems what it feels like, and you know, I gotta tell you, that's the case, man. You can't win for losing, because here we are at the end of another raid, and it's like, oh no, there's another guy that was doing a thing, and I was just doing all of this because of this other thing. And that's a bit of a head scratcher. I'm not gonna lie. Like, who is the bigger batter? I mean, here we've been learning about the jailer, right? The jailer's been playing 8D chess for millennia to try to get to this moment, and now we're being left to believe that all of that in his mind was to ensure that the cosmos was unified then against some other greater threat. That, I don't think, is the kind of satisfying conclusion that people were looking for. One, the cinematic was a bit brief, it wasn't very long. Two, it was nice to get some context, but it did leave a lot of mystery. And three, there was nothing about Sylvanas, which I think a lot of people were waiting for, even though we know that there's an epilogue out there that has yet to actually come into PTR or live servers. So there's a bit of a reconciliation that has to happen here, because it's the end of the raid and that's it. It's just the end of the raid. It doesn't resolve really any other stories. It's just, we had a raid, there was a boss, we defeated him, he died. And these were his memories as he passed out of existence, right? That's it. It's simply just that. All the stuff that we are looking for, I'm pretty sure that's what's going to be the 9.25 stuff. You know, people have theorized, maybe correctly so, that originally there were supposed to be 3 patches, a 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, and instead they've consolidated as much as they could because of the way that the world and their company has been. And so there is still the judgment of Sylvanas looming out there somewhere. There's still the resolution of various threads here that eludes us at the moment. We still don't know what's going on. So it's unsatisfying in the sense that I think most of us were wanting more, but at the same time, it's serving the purpose that it needs to as an end of raid cinematic. I don't think this is really the end of the cinematic. Or sorry, the end of the expansion cinematic. That's what we were all looking for, because that's typically what's happened. It's the last raid, it's the big one, right? You go all the way back to Wrath of the Lich King. What played after you defeat that fight, that was it. That was the jam. That was the big cinematic. That's what we had. And that's the kind of thing that we've come to expect. I don't think it's going to happen this time. And there seems to be pretty clear indications that there is more to come. Steve Denuser has said, and the rest of the story team have said, this is going to have a definitive end. Like, when Shadowlands is over, you're going to feel like, yes, we've wrapped this up. This is it. I don't really think anybody feels like that right now. So there has to be more, particularly with Sylvanas. That's just... There's too much out there about her that we're left to wonder. The redemption arc, whatever it is, I don't know. It's still out there. There is a bonkers galaxy brain theory out there. And if you want to see like the full rundown of this, go over to Wowhead. The article is "What if Zovaal isn't the true jailer?" by Discordian Kitty. There is this very long write-up about how maybe Zovaal isn't the true jailer. The Primus is the one who is the true jailer. And listen, I think there are some valid points in here. Some of it I feel like was debunked kind of early. But there are, I think, some salient points here being made about how it's convenient that certain things came together. How... especially at the end in that cinematic, we didn't see the Primus. Why didn't we see the Primus? You know, the art that we originally had for the jailer looks more like the Primus than looks like Zovaal. There is a mention of how the Primus might have some kind of an interaction with the Infinite Dragonflight. There are other hints about, you know, the Rune Carver and how that comes in, and you know, how convenient some of these aspects are. So it's a very interesting read if that's what you want to spend a little time getting into. I can't go through all of it here. It is so long and convoluted. But I got to give you an A for effort on this one, because I'm not there. I really hope this is not what they're doing, because it's so fucking complicated that it just... the average dummy like me is not going to get that. And I'll go, whoa... okay, you know, that, wow, that not expected. But we already have to go to some pretty extraordinary lengths to buy into the story now. I really don't want to have to grab that one as well. But if you want to check it out, What if Zovaal isn't the true jailer? Shadowlands lore speculation. Pretty recent article on Wowhead. Should be able to find it easily. And it's a deep one, folks. It's a deep one. At the same time that all of this stuff is going on, we do have a race to World First happening. I haven't even mentioned that yet up to this point because, to be honest, I lost interest after we had the same group winning all the time. And I've been curious to see how more recent tiers were going. And this tier has been pretty fucking good. And by that I mean they are struggling, and I love it. Because the last thing that I want to see is, after all this time, these top guilds, these top teams, just steamrolling stuff. Blizzard, smart move on their part, they pretty much held back the testing on Mythic for these last bosses. And so having to go in blind, you're seeing 400 plus pulls on bosses, 200 plus pull bosses, pretty normal here. And these guilds are banging away, and it's taking them some time. As I record this, Liquid, Echo, SK Pieces, Skyline, Method, and BDGG are all 7 of 11. So that means you still have Anduin and then the last 3 to go. The best pull right now is Liquid's 9.4% on Anduin, so they'll probably get it today before this post. Listen, it's going to be a few days between now and when this episode posts. I'm sure that those numbers will be updated, but I am thoroughly enjoying that it is taking them a bit of time to get through this because they're supposed to be the best. So make it as crazy and hard and difficult as possible. Yes, there's going to be the hot fixes coming in, and the dev team, they're live streaming all this. They're watching this themselves to see how these teams are handling these challenges. And if something is too hard or too insurmountable, it does look like they're trying to give them a little bit of a bone every now and again to make it workable, but they're challenged, and I love it, and I'm so happy to see that. If you want to see some coverage on this, I know Kexman, part of Warcraft Radio, he is doing a bunch of casting for this, as well as Athelis, who we've had here, and as head honcho for Warcraft Radio. He is also doing some streaming, so I do suggest check them out on Twitter. You should be able to find their schedule, where they are and what they're doing, because it's still going, folks, and I love it. I typically, a couple of weeks, that's what we're looking at. I don't know. Could we see 3 weeks? Could it be a month? No, it won't be a month. That's a fever dream. Could they at least not get it down while I'm out on vacation? No, they'll probably get it done while I'm on vacation. But kudos to the WoW team. Good job. Thanks for making it hard. It should. And then when you go back, try to tune it so the rest of us can actually get these things down as well. Last but not least on this episode, we do have some huge news coming. News that we've been waiting for. There was a post about this a little bit ago. We did get emails, those of us that subscribe to these things. We got to save the date. The future of Warcraft. There was a big announcement posted on World of Warcraft, and they announced a new Hearthstone game that just came out right before I recorded this. There's a new Hearthstone announcement that came out. They was originally supposed to be an expansion announcement on the 15th, and then it was changed to the 17th. So if you're into Hearthstone, congratulations. Have a good time. For us, April 19th. April 19th. That is the day. Clear your calendars. If they do it, 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, that would be, I don't know. Maybe they'll do it in the morning. I don't know. Clear the whole day. Clear the whole day. Don't schedule any meetings. Clear the deck. Get stuff off your desk. Take the day off. Take a sick day. Take a vacation day. Take a personal holiday. Take a mental health day. Take a whatever the fuck you want to call it day. April 19th. That is the day when the World of Warcraft development team will reveal the next expansion. Supposed lakes. Flying everywhere. Most people believe it's going to be some kind of Dragon Isles thing. I don't know. I feel like too many people are buying into that. The end of the announcement reads that the future of Warcraft is bright, and I have seen that statement in several places on official communication from them. I am putting my money on some kind of light-themed expansion. Light and void, something with the light. I've seen that the future of Warcraft is bright. That could be a red herring. But I feel like this is the kind of cheeky shit that they would do to be like, yeah, it's bright. Oh, look at that, it's a Naru. I can see that coming. So I'm gonna put my stake in that ground. I'm gonna say that's what it is. But April 19th, we should get more details as that date gets closer about the time and where, probably going to be a YouTube or a live stream or some kind of a thing. But we'll have details. I'll certainly promote the shit out of that. Very excited to see where we're going next. Hopefully we'll get some details as well on maybe 925, maybe what the, are we going to get an expansion this year? There are some people that think that it's not possible. I think it's possible. I think it could be the end of the year. Again, we got Shadowlands, the week of Thanksgiving. Clearly they're not afraid to do this stuff around holidays. So maybe the end of this year. I don't know. 9-10 months in a final. No, because if they do 925, they do that maybe late summer. Maybe we get 6 months, 5 months in the last patch, something like that. But we'll see. April 19th, clear your calendar. Now, we also know that sometime in May, so a month later, we are going to find out about the first mobile game in the Warcraft universe. I've speculated that this is going to be Pokemon Go Pet Battle style. Some people have thought this is going to be an RTS of some kind. Who knows what they're going to do? We're going to find out in May. Again, details are very scarce at this point. We don't know anything. The when or the where. Other than generally it's going to be in May. Certainly we'll keep everyone posted about that as we go along. But they end it by saying, the future of Warcraft is bright. And on behalf of all of us at Blizzard working to bring even more exciting Warcraft experiences to you, we thank you for being part of the community. We're excited about the journey in front of us and are grateful that you're joining us for it. Thank you for playing, and we'll see you in Azeroth, the Tavern, and beyond. And that's from John Haidt, the General Manager of Warcraft. So that's where we are. The future is bright, they say, and it's coming fast. So April 19th, clear the decks. In May, we shall see. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. My thanks to all of you for listening. And remember, you can always follow me and this show on Twitter at Berserker Rage and Unshackled_Fury. You can also join our Discord, links for which are in the profile of the show on Twitter and on our Warcraft Radio page. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise through any of those resources or unshackledfury.com. And you can find this show wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high. And we'll see you next time. Farewell.